talking about? Let's talk it out. Brought it up, brought it out. Call them up, call them out. You acting up, we'll calm you down. They kick you down, I pick you up. You broke down, I fix you up. Too much, still ain't enough. Young, black, and smart that make us dangerous. Handicapable.
Welcome to Let's Talk with your host, Coco Shenell, where we discuss healing, wholeness, and transformation. Today, you guys, I am super excited to have with me our very own guest right here in the city of Fort City. This is the individual that I call my brother, my friend. Some of you guys call him Pierre. Some of you all may call him Mr.Handicapable. You guys welcome Mr. Pierre McShan to the stage. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Listen, I'm excited about today. I am excited about talking about your book. But one of the things that I want to just back up and say, if you were to introduce yourself and tell the people who is Mr. Handicapable, who is Mr. Pierre McShan, what would you say?
I'm just a guy who enjoys helping people find the bright side. Because if you think about it, we all have bad stuff that happens to us. So that's our common denominator. But how we can fix it is to change our perception. And I love teaching people how to change their perception.
Listen, I love it. And I'm telling you guys, he is actually being very humble because I know him from many titles. So just give us a little backstory about some of the things that you've done in the community, some of the avenues that you've taken to get to this point of who you are.
Let me see. I've written 3 books. But before I was able to get to that, I had to go through the process of learning myself. So I learned what I liked and what I didn't like. I used to do quartet. I didn't like that. I like aspects of it. And,
so you sang quartet?
Yeah, I like aspects of it, but I didn't like the whole it as a whole. So I knew that wasn't for me. But I did like helping people, and we did. When we would go places, we were able to help people who were genuinely looking for help. When I realized that wasn't my avenue, and things went south, and so I had to find something else. And I just went on my own and started helping people in my own way. That's how we got here.
I love it. So I know that. And I don't know why I'm digging on this because I'm trying to dig in your business, but most of you guys may not know. I know Pierre from, Pierre the promoter, Pierre the guest speaker, motivational speaker. So there's just so many aspects and different things to you outside of you being an author. And one of the things that I do want to ask is, how I know that you wrote 3 books. How did you get to this book, The Sentiments of My Heart? What was that road that you had to travel to just say, hey, this is what I want to now put on paper?
Well, I wanted to know who I was, and not only who I was, but what caused me to be the way I am, like what caused me to think the way I think. So I had to go. And I'm also in therapy, so in therapy, you have to go back to the beginning to figure out where things got off course. Because when they get off course, if you don't correct it right then, your entire journey is somewhere you're not supposed to be.
Right.
So I had to go back and figure out where I got off course, and I had to think about the lessons that I learned and reflect on the relationships I had with different people, and that made me realize why I am the way I am, good or bad.
Right.
Now I understand it. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I wrote Sentiments of My Heart. And I wrote it down because I wanted people to know that, you know, we all pretty much go through the same thing.
Yeah.
So, these are just lessons that I wrote down that I think that people can relate to and plus on.
They are actually very relatable.
Yeah.
And so I do want to get a little bit in the book, if you don't mind. In the book, you talk about the power and the importance of community. And one of the statements that really resonated and stuck out with me is that you said the system is not broken, and we hear that a lot, like the system is broken. But what you defined in that moment was it wasn't the system, it's the participants that aren't following the rules. So break that down. What is the disconnect between the rules and how people are not necessarily following the rules that are in place as far as community?
Okay, so I'm not a pastor, but I do use religious stuff to help me understand. So in Genesis, God told Adam and Eve God told Adam that he would create a helper that is right for him. See, what we mess up is we think that it's our job to create or the helper. And we're not just talking about a spouse, we're talking about like a community of people that we are connected to. So if God said that he would create it, we should just trust him to create the avenues that would take us to the roads to meet the people that we're supposed to be connected to. What happens is we get anxious.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever comes along we think that they're our responsibility, and they're not our responsibility. And most of the time, they just end up using us and hurting us. And I'm not gonna say it's undeserved because it is deserved,
Mm-hmm.
because we didn't follow the rules, but it's I heard that you need to experience. So you know,
That's good.
you know how to value a genuine relationship when it comes.
So it's something that sometimes, like what I got out of it is sometimes we do take we mismanage the rules, or we don't necessarily follow the rules. However, we still get to where God wants us to be most of the time. 99.9% of the time, we just take the long route around, right? So like we put ourselves in positions or in situations out of us being mishandled. And a lot of that, what I heard and what I read in the book was kind of beginning with mistrust, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes our trust is distorted, and that comes from so many other seeds that's been placed in our lives. And we talked about one of the things I saw, and I kind of broke it down in the book. The very first couple of chapters were lack of trust, finding loopholes, and taking accountability. I think those were really, really big things that stood out in the book. What would you like to speak on as far as the lack of trust?
You have to really just ask for it. When it comes to trust, you really just have to ask Holy Spirit who your assignment is, because people always tell you a great story. They will tell you the best story ever. And if you're not aware and just gullible to whatever they're selling, you buy it. And when you do buy it, you feel like a fool when it comes back to bite you. So the next person that you are supposed to help, you can't help them because you've been burned by the person that you were not supposed to help. And like that builds. You know what I'm saying? It's just not, it doesn't stop with one person. So eventually you're gonna have to figure out what it is about you that is causing you to trust these people, and ask yourself how to change it, because you don't want to become a stone, but you don't want to become a pushover. You have to find that healthy balance.
You gotta have balance. Balance and boundaries are the utmost important. And I'm super excited about this, guys, and I just want to plug this. If you all have not gotten this book, and we know we normally do this at the end, I will really talk about this book throughout this interview. If you have not gotten this book, there are nuggets for days. And when I say nuggets for days, I mean nuggets for days. I'm going to read one thing. I'm going to read this, and it says the root of impatience is mistrust. We do not trust that he is concerned about our desires. This mistrust gives us the green light to cultivate our own community. The problem with this is we will try to put people in positions where they do not belong. That is powerful. We do this so often. Because we want to have that control, right? When we get ready to trust someone, then we sort of give them an amount of control over our lives to say, hey, I trust you to handle me this way. I trust you to handle me that way. Right. But when that mistrust happens, when there's a disconnect there, we start putting people in places, and then we become the puppet master. We get to control it. And that's where that disconnect is. And I was like, oh, this is like an aha Oprah moment. This is mind blowing. So with that being said, I know that you talked a lot about the root. 90% of the book is just finding the root of the issue, right? How did you find that for yourself? I know therapy was one. What are some other ways that you found out, like, hey, this is the root that I need to deal with?
Well, like I said, I was in therapy, and I started noticing patterns. Mm-hmm. And everybody that I was connected to was doing the same thing. And eventually, it's going to dawn on you that it's something about these people that you are attracted to, and you need to figure out why. And once you figure out why, it's easier to disconnect. Because once you figure out why, you're going to fix the problem. Hopefully you fix the problem. And then it'll be easier to disconnect from people that you know don't make that good. Because when you're not sure about them, you tend to give more grace than they deserve. Ooh. And when you keep giving grace, they keep taking grace. And, after a while, you only have so much grace to give. And after a while, if you don't fix the problem, you'll become like a hermit. You'll shut down, and you won't trust anybody. And when you do shut down, you lose your purpose for life. You lose your ambition, and you don't serve any purpose for anybody, not even yourself. So
I love it. Yeah. I love that. One of the things, and I know that everyone watching can see that their peer has a disability. Let's talk a little bit about that diagnosis, what that has, the impact that it has had on your life, and the impact that it has had on you, and you kind of encouraging other people's lives.
Well, I was born with spinal muscular atrophy, which is a spinal disease. It affects the nerves and the muscles in your body. And eventually, like, the muscles deteriorate, so you're unable to do your day-to-day living independently. Let's say that you can still live, but you can't do it independently. So for me, it's teaching me humility, because I don't like asking people for anything. But when you ask, I don't ask, I suffer like internally and externally things that I don't have to suffer from. And I can easily ask for help. Now, I don't like when people assume because when you have a disability, like that you believe them.
Yes.
You can always figure out a way, but it goes back to the community. You want people around you that will help build you up, hold you up. You want somebody to be strong in the area where you're weak. So that's what Mike teaches me like that you can't do it by yourself.
You can't do it by yourself. And I think we hear this a lot. I talk to a lot of people and they will say, especially those that have dealt with a lot of trauma in their lives, right? And so one of the things is, again, distrust, betrayal. And so they naturally struggle with saying, I need help.
Right.
We see that a lot of times, especially in women, the strong woman syndrome, right? I'm a Black woman, so I can identify with what you're saying 1,200 times. So I get it. But the thing that we have to do is, you said it best, is humble ourselves. Humble ourselves, humility to say, taking that moment to say, you know what, I can do it by myself, but I need a community. It's much better with a partnership,
Right.
with community,
Right.
with friends, with family, those that we trust, and everybody that we don't trust, that God will remove them.
Right.
Speaking of God, one of the things that one of the things that I saw in the book and I read in the book was how when you went back to kind of figure out those roots, where those things were coming from, like some things that you were upset about. One of the things that you pointed out was how you felt about God at that moment and the way that you were born. Where's your relationship with God now, and how did that, when you were going through that moment, that transition of, I found out what's wrong, like I'm upset, how did you get through all of those emotions?
Well, right now, what's it saying? Jesus is my homeboy.
He your homeboy.
Yeah.
Okay.
We rock.
I love that.
I don't think we have, like, for me, the conventional religious relationship. It doesn't work for me. I respect it. If that's your thing, I go ahead and do that. But I don't like the show.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to be intimate, you know what I'm saying?
Relationship.
Yeah. And I when I finally admitted that I was mad about the diagnosis, I was able to let Holy Spirit show me positive things about the diagnosis that I can be, I can't be nothing, and I can. It's 10,000 people on my social media networks that I don't know that always reach out to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm making an impact. You know what I'm saying? It's not maybe the way that I wanted to happen, but it's happening the way it is supposed to happen. And I feel like I'm more effective now that I'm able to accept what it is. Once I started accepting what it is, I was able to get guidance to get to where I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because the way I wanted to do it, physically I can't do it, but there hasn't been one goal that I've set that I've not achieved. So, there are things that you struggle with, but I'm okay.
That's
And
limitations.
Yeah.
He got it.
Nigga got respect.
He your homeboy. So, like that acknowledgement first, right? I had to acknowledge, that this is how I was feeling.
Right.
And then taking accountability and ownership of those thoughts. And in the middle of that, you literally allow God to change your mindset.
Right.
That's if 90% of us do that, the acknowledgement is the difficult part, right? It's hard for us to say I'm not okay, or to say I'm pissed off.
People don't want to say what's wrong. They want you to try it out of them.
They want you to guess.
And God ain't gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? God ain't gonna do that.
No.
And I'm not gonna do that. If you want to carry that,
I don't get paid to do that. The counselors get paid to do that.
if you want to carry that, and I can ask you what's wrong,
Yeah.
and you tell me no, it's nothing, then
One of the things when we talk about just being different, and I feel like everyone has their own difference and individuality. One of the things that you put in the book, you said, as a child that you knew you were different, but what you didn't know was different didn't equate to being lesser value.
Right.
And at that point, realizing that at some point there was a seed of inadequacy that was placed let's talk about that a little bit. How did you feel in those moments? And some of it, guys, it's in the book, so we're not gonna give it all away. But I do want you to just hit on it just a little bit, like that seed of inadequacy.
Well, when I was a kid, I grew up with my cousins. Like, we have a big family. And all of my cousins were close. So they never let me, I knew I was different, but they never showed me any difference. But when it came to school, my cousins were there. I'm in a different environment.
Right.
So these kids don't know me. So when I started to be around them, I didn't have the same comfort as I had with my family because they were scared. And it's okay for kids. Kids are curious.
Right.
If you don't know, you scared or you ask. And but the question started, and the question didn't stop. And that's how I knew. Okay, so I can't do that. They're going to pick somebody who can do this and can't do that. So I'm kind of like on the side road, they're playing on myself. So I became socially weird.
Yeah, I get it.
I was weird because I like staying by myself.
Yeah.
It was easier to answer my own questions than to answer other kids' questions. Than I can answer it in a way that made sense. So yes.
Did it lead to a level of insecurities and self-doubt?
Oh yeah.
How did you overcome that though?
What's that?
Okay, tell me about it.
What's it?
Because we used to like quartet, right?
Yeah.
So how did that shift? Like, hey, I was different. I knew I was different. I had those insecurities, and then voila, I'm in quartet, and that changed.
Well, when you're an entertainer, differences don't matter. You know what I'm saying?
You just need to put on the show.
Yeah, you just got to put the show on.
Okay.
And after the show, they gonna come to you. You know what I'm saying?
Who is they?
They coming.
Who is they and them?
I promise you, they coming. So when they started coming to me, I
Yeah.
was like, oh, okay, I can do this. This is fun.
Differences are okay.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
That's big.
So it's not okay by church standards, but it saved my life. You know, it brought me out of my shit.
It brought you out.
Yeah. Right. You know what I'm saying? It brought me out of my shit.
I love it. So the environment changed. It boosts like your confidence, I'm sure you probably was, because I remember you leading a few songs.
Yeah.
So I figured that little, that ego was kind of rising a little bit. Everybody love Michael Jackson. I love it. And I actually can relate to that in more ways than not. Like, I'd always sing and I'd be so insecure, but then people would just be like, oh, you can really sing. And I'm like, no, not really, not that much. And then finally it kind of just stuck and grew on me.
Yeah.
Start walking in it, walking tall.
Yeah.
So one of the titles of the book is Unlearning and Relearning. Most of the time we're talking about unlearning behaviors, relearning healthy habits and healthy behaviors. Tell me about some things that you had to unlearn and relearn.
I had to, like I said, from farm. So we had to go back to place. We had to go back to high school.
Mm-hmm.
So in high school, I was quiet. You know what I'm saying? I was quiet, and I thought that was how I was supposed to be. So I got to the quartet day.
Yeah.
And my confidence started to boost up. I had to unlearn the shyness because I was comfortable there. In order to get on stage, you have to have
a level of confidence.
Yeah. Because you don't know what's going to happen. So I unlearned being scared, and I had to learn to take the chance. It's okay to take the chance. You might fail. I'm not afraid of failure. I have failed at so many things, man, but I can live with that. But I cannot live with studying. Man, I wish I would have did that. So that's what you have to unlock fear and take on confidence.
That's deep because so many people struggle with that,
Yeah.
that fear component. And I think it comes from possibly those seeds that they are planted at whatever area, whatever time or moment in their life. So unlearn fear and you have to learn and relearn confidence because we were born with confidence, right? We were born a blank slate, so we didn't have any fears.
Right.
And so we had to learn that, and now we have to unlearn it. I love it. I love that. One of the things that, and we're referring back to the book, it says, finding your trauma gives you somewhere to start building a foundation of improvement.
Yeah.
That was probably one of the most positive nuggets in the entire book because a lot of us fear trauma, right? But now what you're saying is, hey, it gives us that slate to improve. Without it.
Yeah, we don't fear trauma, we fear hurting. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is.
Yeah.
I can watch a scary movie. It don't scare me because I know it's not real. But going into my life's trauma, that was real. You can feel that. You know what I'm saying? And you don't want to feel, once you get past it, you don't want to feel it again. But you have to go back to it to fix it as an adult. Because as a kid, you don't know the damage something does to you until you're like able to realize it as an adult. But once you realize it, you have a responsibility to yourself to go fix it. Yeah, it'll hurt. It'll hurt for a while, but you'll be all right. That was one of my hardest lessons to learn.
Yeah, I think that's probably most people's hardest lesson. I love how you put that, like, we don't fear the trauma, but we do fear the pain that's associated with people naturally. Nobody just want to be, I mean, there's some people that have that diagnosis, right, where they like pain, but most people don't want to be in pain,
Right.
And so I love that. But it gives you somewhere to start. It gives you that foundation of healing. And that's what this is about.
Right.
Finding your healing, your wholeness, and then transforming into that whole place.
Right.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. All right. So you walk through all of the roots and the trauma and the untrust into the new. Who is Pierre the new? Where are you? Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years?
Next 3 years. I don't know. I hope to be, still doing this at a different level. But if I'm not, and I'm still at this level, I'm gonna take it with. I'm gonna take it as this is where God wants me to be. I don't want to rush anything, but at the same time, I do want to grow.
What does that growth look like? What kind of level? If there was no limit to what God will bless you with, what level would you want to be in as far as an author?
I want to travel. I want to be somewhere. I want to be in a different city every weekend.
Okay.
But I also, one thing about Forte, it is for me because we were always moving. And I miss that.
Mm-hmm.
But this time I want to move with purpose.
Ooh, I love it.
Not just to entertain. I want to move with purpose and I want to teach people how to become better versions of themselves. Because all we got is us. So we gotta enjoy ourselves in the right way while we're here. So I want to help people learn how to enjoy themselves in the right way. And you can't do that if you constantly doubting who you are and your gift. So I like to teach people how to find it.
So what it sounds like is self-care, self-love.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's the journey that I hear you saying that you're on. And one of the things, I'm a helper and I deal with a lot of helpers day by day. So I would say, how do you practice self-care? How do you practice self-love? And then I'll ask the second part after you answer that.
Self-care. I'm learning how to say no.
Okay.
I'm learning how to say no and not feel bad about saying no. And I've learned since I've done that a lot of, you know how they say God will separate the
Right. Oh, the wheat from the tare.
Yeah. So I'm in the separating phase. Like, yeah, I miss some people, but I know that their relationship or that season has ended. So I'm learning how to accept what it was and be okay with them not being present in this part of my life. That gives me the confidence to go off. Because if I met them, I'll meet somebody else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that gives me the thing is, people are just nervous that they won't meet anybody else. And they shouldn't spend time with themselves. So I'm learning to love myself. I'm learning to enhance the things about myself that I like.
Yeah.
And to deal with the things about myself that I don't like. So that's what self-care looks like for me.
I love it. I love that. And what I think people sometimes forget is separation and boundaries doesn't mean that it is a definite end.
Right.
Sometimes it is an end, but it doesn't mean that there is, you know, an argument, hard feelings, a disagreement.
Right.
Sometimes we're just in separate places, right? And so we have to love each other in passing, as opposed to that community. With practicing like self-care, self-love, one of the things that we talked about at the very beginning was community. And like I was starting to say, is like we are a people of helpers. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's very difficult for us to identify who our helpers are.
Right.
So have you identified your community and who your helpers are?
Yeah.
Who helps the helper?
Who helps the helper? That's a nice hand down right there.
Okay.
No, my God, ladies, man, they give me a reason to smile, to live. Like, I didn't have it that, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so watching them grow up, I feel like, and helping them where I can, I feel like I'm actually planting a seed that will grow, into something beautiful. Yeah. So I love that. So it's not so much as me doing for them. They do stuff for me that they don't even know about. I can have a horrible day. And I can talk to my God, baby, and she just makes it. Don't even say anything special. Just make it better. And you need those kind of people around you.
That's your community.
Yeah.
I love it. And children do that. Like they tend to do that. In your worst days, you find that joy and that peace in them. And they have no idea that they just made your day. So I absolutely love that. I think that is amazing that that you found that, because everybody don't have, people are still at 40, 41, 50, still finding their community. And one thing that I know is sometimes your community change. We move all the time. People move to different cities, and that means sometimes your community, they either change or it will enhance the people who are already in that space. And that is okay. That is okay. I love everything about that. One of the things that you put, preparing for the new, and is Isaiah 43:19. Even though I know you said you're not a preacher, but guys, there are scriptures throughout the book. We just want to hit and put that out there. Behold, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? Isaiah 43:19. And you said that, I think the only hard part about starting over is, y'all, this is powerful, listen, is admitting that it didn't work out the first time. That was like a really big statement. We have a difficult time saying it just didn't work. It did not work. So I know that you talked about, things that weren't necessarily successful. Not necessarily that you failed in it, but some things that just weren't successful. Can you talk about a few of those things and how you adjusted in life with those?
I had some friendships that I really, really did value. It just, once I started to realize who I was, I started to realize that I was more of a tool for them than they were a benefit to me. So I had to separate from that, and it was okay. And it's not anything that they did intentionally. It was just who they were. You know, so you cannot be mad at a person for being who they are.
Yes.
You just have to take it and decide if this is something that you want to deal with. And I think for me, being able to separate myself from a person, because I love people. So separating myself from a person validated me to let me know, hey, okay, that wasn't your person, but that person did teach you something. So you didn't lose, but it wasn't what you were looking for in totality. So it gave me the strength to go, okay, thank you for this. I appreciate you. I got you forever.
Yeah.
But I have to go do something else. But people don't want to start over. They get comfortable in their situation, and comfort is easier than uncertainty. So
Yeah.
you know what's going to happen when you're comfortable. But when you go into new territory, you don't know what's going to happen and what could happen. And the way we think, we automatically expect the worst to happen. So we don't push for that. My pastor here says, better is only available to those who believe that better is available to them.
Yeah.
So that's my lifestyle. I live by that. I think that doesn't available, so I'm always searching for better. Like, I'm content. I thank God for what I have.
Yeah.
But I do believe there's more. So I'm searching for that more.
And I think people see, it's so easy to see better for other people as opposed to seeing better for yourself. And then we talk about, you talked about the uncertainty, like I would rather be comfortable than uncertain. And I think that leads back to that mistrust, right? It leads back to the root. So really 90% of this is literally finding the root of the issue of why you respond and act the way that you act. Because if you really trust what was on the inside of us, whatever that may be, we will push for the new more often. Right? Because we wouldn't be bound to fear and to mistrust and to uncertainty.
Right.
But we will be bound to growth, prosperity, movement, transformation, all of those things.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that. And I think it just speaks to the humility that you do have, that you are humble, that you do understand. One of the things that you put in the book is submission is the biggest part of humility.
Right.
And understanding that I never thought of it like that. Submission naturally humbles us. It causes us to say, you know what, hey, here's what I got, God. Do it the way you want to do it.
Here's what I got to do, which right.
Yeah, but we can't do that if we don't trust.
Right.
We cannot do that if we don't trust. And so I absolutely love this. Guys, listen, tell me, what would you, if you had 3 minutes, you have 2 million followers that are watching. What do you want to leave with? How do you want to encourage people with this platform?
God loves you. God is concerned about you. God is concerned about your concerns. God is concerned about the concerns that you don't know that you have. It's just, you have to trust. What if you're going to trust anybody, trust him. And he will lead you to the people that you need to be around. And don't get discouraged when it doesn't work the first time, or you get hurt, or things don't go how you thought they should go. But at the same time, don't fall into a state of stagnant. Don't be stagnant, because you can't grow if you don't move. It's not like, if physical therapy, they teach you all the time. If you don't use your muscles, you lose your muscles. So you have to use your gift. And I am so pleased that I am able to help others find their gift and to use it. So
You're able to use your muscles.
use the most.
Use your muscles. Listen, guys, sentiment of my heart. You all have to get this book. Pierre, let us